and I'm at Sentinella now. You know what I mean? And this is where some gangster stuff happened at Sentinella.
Sentinella's a bad prison?
Yeah, it's a level 3, level 4. It's stabbings all the time. Whites are 8% of the population. Asians are 8% of the population. All the rest are lifer blacks, Crips, Bloods, and Southern Mexicans. So there ain't no Norteños. You know what I mean? There ain't nothing from North. So it's the opposite, polar opposite of what I was talking about with Solano. This is all Southern craziness. You know what I mean? So I'm there, and I've given up on my writing, and watch this. A letter shows up. Now wait, before I get there, the whites got smoked over a riot for dope. Nobody was running the yard right. A lifer that was the barber, that's how you get in and out of cells, he ran up a dope debt with somebody running the building, gangster Mexican. And he's a lifer, and he ran up a dope debt, and instead of paying the dope debt, he kind of gangstered it, but he sure didn't help out the whites. He stabbed the Mexican dude in his neck and said, "You're paid."
For a couple $100.
Yeah, for a couple $100 of heroin, whatever he ran up, and he walks back to his cell like a gangster. And then I don't want to say stupid whites, but somehow they found out what happened. Maybe he told on himself. Somehow he got away with it because they pulled him out and put him in the hole. And so now the Mexicans are like, yeah, don't worry about it. Don't trip. That's just, but we're cool. You know what I mean? And the dumb whites believed it. They went out to the yard, and this is like 6 months before I get there, but everybody knows what's happening. You know what I mean? You hear when something like this happens. And so they go out to the yard. There's 17, 18 Mexicans per white dude stomping them out, okay? And they had mandatory get back up once, which means after stomped out, after the block guns, after the pepper spray, after they get down, they pop back up.
You mean,
mandatory get back up once to show the whole yard that the cops can't stop them. And then they just start getting their money again until the pepper spray's done, until warning shots are coming, you know, close and stuff like that.
Where's a rule like that come from?
So 17, 18 people are getting carted off on gurneys. So that's before I got there.
Who sends
boot prints on their head, everything just stomped out. Who knows what happened to these? Nobody died, but some serious damage to brains. You know what I mean? Stomped out.
Who sends a rule like you had, even if you get fucked up, you got.
So that's why you got to run a yard when you go into these prison situations. One of the things I said in roll call is that they're taking an affliction, this drug war, and they're taking an addiction, and they're incarcerating it, and it turns into an affliction much harder to escape, where gangs and drugs are the calling card and spit out violent, tattooed, displaced inmates into the community with no chance of like landing on their feet. You know what I mean? Coming to a community near you. Your little kid goes in for a heroin habit and comes out a skinhead. You know what I mean? Because he's got to survive in there, and that's how he dealt with it. I didn't deal with it that way. I dealt with it a different way, but about a week from now, it's going to go off. It's going to be a crazy ride.
He was a northerner.
No, he was a southerner. We kicked it with the southerners. We kicked it with the southerners. Giant is from Northern California, but he kicked it with me. I scooped him up under the wing because he's like 6'5". He looked like that dude Dolph Lundgren. If you look at him, he's a good dude. Yeah. Cool dude, bro. And he did a bunch of federal time after that. He was trafficking to Hawaii ice from the cartel up there in Northern Cal, the Michoacan cartel. And so that's how I met him. And so, you know, we kicked it together. And so we ended up helping the southerners out because they were outnumbered about 3 to 1. There was about 30 of them in the building I was in, building 23, and about 90 northerners in that building.
The whites, because they're lesser numbers, there's no northern and southern division. All the whites rock.
It depends on the prison. It depends on the prison. It really does. There is a little separation sometimes on some prisons, but in that one, it was just so extreme that there was no whites and no southern Mexicans that we kicked it tight. You know what I mean? It was all Norteños and blacks. And the Norteños, if you guys don't know what they're like, they basically kick it with the blacks. They sag their pants. So the Mexicans are mad at them because they're like, where's your Chicano pride? You know what I mean? You're acting like you're black. So they have that animosity going a little bit right there. And yeah, I don't want to get into all the. So that was the first real riot I was in. And Johnny Rodriguez said it's going to go down like a domino, building by building. And it did exactly like that. Like a week later, exactly like he said. I did the little can, refried beans in a sock, and Giant's just so big. He was just, nobody could reach him. And I think I took a shot to the face in that riot, and we ended up in the hole. They
Now, when a riot goes on, you're, whatever group you're a part of, you're obligated to participate.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
Tell the kid, you know, explain to someone that you might be in there and you're just like, oh, okay, I'm going to get my life on track. I'm going to just do this time and go home. But it's not that fucking simple on the West Coast because you get enmeshed.
Yeah, absolutely none of that.
Other people's
Absolutely none of that. I'll get to what we did at Centinela. We wouldn't even let people take meds to get off the yard at Centinela. I'll get to that one. But this one with that riot with Giant, I told the Mexicans, Johnny, I go, we might help you out, but I don't want to say we are for sure, because I was trying to show him how to do it. You know what I mean? Don't obligate yourself. If you do, you got to do it. Right. You know what I mean? So I was like, yeah, we got love for you. Let's see how it plays out. And we ended up doing it. You know what I mean? We just didn't want to see him get outnumbered. You know what I mean? We had love for these dudes. Johnny would wake us up with Kool-Aid in the middle, you know, in the morning. We were friends, you know what I mean? We didn't want to see him get outnumbered. We didn't like it, you know what I mean? So we're like, hey, we ain't watching, you know what I mean? And then the whites were kind of mad at us because we put the rest of the whites in conflict that didn't get involved in the riot, you know what I mean? And we had this black dude jumping, I can't remember this dude. This dude was like 60 years old and he could jump up and slam dunk. Everybody loved him. He was a lifer from LA. And we remember in the hole him putting everybody in check saying, you know them white boys love them. They kicked it with the Mexicans. You should just let that go. We heard about all that. But that's how dynamic it is in there. You know what I mean?
It's
like whites helping.
People are coming in and out.
Yeah. So it took about a day and a half to get put in the hole. It made the news. It was the biggest riot I'd ever been in. And it was the first big one like that I'd ever been in. And it was building by building like a domino, like he said. So they didn't even have enough men to get there. And we filled up a whole nother building into overflow. And I remember being in the cell on the top. I think, I was on the bottom. And the top floor was mainline. And so we're in the thing going, send us some tobacco. They still had tobacco. Send us some coffee and tobacco through the vents. And they put Southern Mexican on our cell because it was such a crazy war. They either put like a blue Southern Mexican or a red Northern Mexican so they could see who they were housing for when they did showers. You know what I mean?
Oh, no.
Yeah. You know how showers, and when they bring them out, they don't want more fights happening. So they tried to just fill it up that way. And so we're like, hey, Wood, hey, brother. You know what I mean? And so they thought we were Mexican trying to work them. You know what I mean? And they're looking at our cell. And so they came back upstairs and they're like, why does it say Southern Mexican? You sure you're Woods? And we're like, yeah, we're white, bro. We just helped them out. Can you hook us up or not? And you know, they'd hook us up. We actually flushed something and they flushed something, grabbed our line and then packaged it so it was in plastic, sent us down tobacco and coffee, and we played that out as much as we could until they finally let us go to store. You know, they let you go to store in the hole a little bit. And so I did a little shoe term there, a little Mickey Mouse shoe term, and then they sent me to
in Pelican. Or there's shoes in everything.
Every spot, every spot's got a hole, and then you just do.
And they're all called.
Yeah, exactly. If they validate you, then you go through the Pelican Bay stuff, and you go through all that. So I never got any tattoos in there. I wasn't trying to hide behind anything or pretend anything. I was just taking the same kind of mentality from the streets in there to survive. Really, you know what I mean? Like.
Sounds like your looking back now as an adult, did your grandfather's, do you think him being like a real organized crime or somehow sort of organized crime, he put it in you at a young age to, I'm going to be a gangster?
No. Well, maybe a little bit, but I think more of what it was how I reacted to my mom's divorce and that I couldn't see her anymore, and I was shocked by that. That's what tripped me out. Like, I literally just started rebelling hard, you know what I mean? And everything I saw that was wrong with everything in life, I just rebelled against it and was waiting for God to catch up and fix everything. Because like, I got it figured out, this is all wrong, you know what I mean? I had that mentality, and then I literally didn't care if I lived or died in this mentality, because I stopped going to school. Now I'm in the drug trafficking, and the other side of it was the excitement. You know what I mean? It's kind of fun. You know, you're out thinking everything. You got money. Everybody wants to hang out.
It's Tuesday afternoon.
Yeah. And it's that little period that you're going through. And then you start realizing, wow, everybody catches life. Everybody ends up dying. Like the dude I brought up, Little Man, he ended up getting burnt. Gangster stuff. They bailed him out with a girl to kill him. And this was a gangster, dude. He killed like 3 people. This was a dude I was running with, like learning how this whole thing works.
White guy, older white
No, no, Mexican, little Mexican mobster.
Oh.
And because he killed so many homeboys, they eventually got him back through a girl, and they bailed him out. They bailed him out. And
to
kill him. And they found his burned body up in the mountains. So that's, I knew where this life went, you know what I mean? And so doing this shoe time after that riot, I had like an awakening. Like, man, I got to go back to God. I got to put as much energy as I have in this stuff into something legal, and I'll be good. So I go, okay, that's a whole new mentality I'm going to have, you know what I mean? And like, I did like 9 months shoe time. They sent me to Soledad. They threw me back in the hole under investigation. Somebody got hit in the head with another can of beans. They put me in the gym, and I didn't last there, and they put me in the hole, and I paroled from the hole. And so I went out with that mentality, and it worked. I went to a church, and I got a job at an Italian food restaurant, and then I started a limo business. My friend Giant, he's out, and he's in San Francisco, and he's telling me about limo businesses, and the Public Utilities Commission is up there on how to start a limo business. This is in 1999, and so I'm like, I'm going to do that. I had a little bit of the gangster money left because that '96 case, I was fruitful enough to where I had money a little bit, you know what I mean? So I bought a town car, I started a limo business, and I'm like, I'm doing it this time. I'm not turning back. You know what I mean? And I did, and I bought a condo, and I had a little limo business. I'm running up to the airports from Orange County Airport, Los Angeles Airport. I'm making it. I'm like, wow, I'm making it. And then I met a girl, and she was still partying a little bit. You know what I mean? And so just when I'm getting off parole, did everything right to get off parole. At one point, I was in parole in Compton. I was telling the other guy that you interviewed to just get away from Orange County's parole.
Oh, you moved your own parole to Compton?
Yeah, because my mom lived in Redondo Beach at the time, and so she let me use that house as
That's the address.
Yeah. And so I was Compton Del Amo, and they didn't even care about me. They let me off in 13 months. So I kind of outthought the system on that one. And so now this girl, she's partying a little bit, so I started partying with her, and she could stop partying. I didn't want to stop. I wanted the big screen TV. I wanted to start videoing everything we were doing. You know what I mean? There's a little, still that period of my life. And so I screwed up and didn't get back into trafficking like I had before, but I was just kind of lost. My house was getting hit through raids. I was smart enough to not get busted, but I was smart enough to realize, sell the pad. The ship's going down. You know what I mean? And so
you had bought a condo.
Yeah, I bought a condo. So I sold the pad, and now I got like, okay, I sold the pad. Now what am I going to do? And so I ended up getting busted just for small, stupid stuff, man. And
but you're on the radar out there.
yeah, big time. Because of that big case, yeah, they were all over me. Because of that big case that I beat in '96 all the way down that I was telling you about, that I did that book about. And so now I'm busted again, and now they tried to jump me in the county jail. They did jump me, the cops did. And I fought back, and it was on video, so now I had a charge for fighting the cops. I had a little small drug charge, I mean, compared to what I used to do. And now they're trying to break me off 11 years. And I'm like, how are you going to break me off 11 years?
You would have to do all of, because you're not a first offender. There's no have to.
I ended up doing 7 on it. And I sat in the county for like 2 years. And during that period, I realized God showed me something. Like, he showed me that I had been living wrong. I'd been living as if I was God. And when I started to realize that, because I was as angry as I've ever been, because I'm looking at a condo gone, I'm looking at my prestigious transport that turned into ghetto transport. That's what I called it, prestigious transport. A couple years later, this is during 9/11, it turned into ghetto transport. But I had something, you know what I mean? And now I'm looking at it going, I lost all that, and I'm fighting an 11-year case? Are you kidding me? And somehow, some way, God's power right then showed me that everything I had done wrong, that had self-justified, was against him, and that something happened. And so I started waking up in the middle of the night knowing I'm going to start writing. Like God started impressing me to start writing. And so I was like, how am I going to be a writer? I didn't even graduate high school. And so I started giving into that urge, you know what I mean? And I started writing. And I wrote probably for like a year. And at the end of it, I threw it down like, there's no way this could be from God, because I'm sick of reading my own whining. You know what I mean? Like, I had to traffic. I had to do this. I got it. You know what I mean? It was just like a bunch of like, wham. At the end of it, I'm like, this ain't going to work. This can't be from God.